So the next topic in the lesson are Earth, the evolution of the Earth. The scientists are still debating about the formation of the Earth, and a few scientists they are explaining that about 4.5 billion years ago the Earth started forming. It means we have discussed about the formation of the universe and the sun. So in that how the sun started forming, in the same way the earth also started forming with the swirling gases with a force of gases. So these force of gases attracted all the objects which are near to that swirling gases and formed the spherical shape of the earth. And later it was like a burning ball, and it took many years to get cool, and after that the cooled earth has 3 layers. How did these 3 layers were formed? How when the earth started forming, at the time the heavier particles went down and formed the core, and the semi heavier particles or in the middle formed the mantle, and the lighter particles came up like a small layer, thin layer that we call as crust. So earth has 3 layers, that is a crust, mantle and core. So to explain these 3 layers, how did these 3 layers are formed to the students, we can take the example of a glass of kheer, that is vermicelli kheer. So when you take a glass of milk, in that we used to have the semia and the dry fruits and the nuts, everything. So when you mix it with a spoon, it swirls, and at the time when it gets stopped, the heavier particles, the vermicelli and the dry fruits will go down, and the semi heavier particles, that is the grapes and all the thickest of the kheer will remain in the middle, and the lighter part of the kheer, that is the cream of the kheer, the milk cream will come to the up, that will form a small layer that we call as crust. So if you consider the 3 layers as 100%, the crust occupies just 1% and the mantle 16%, core 83%, and this core again is divided into 2 layers, inner core and the outer core. Now coming to the formation of the water bodies and the continents, at present we have 7 continents, and it took billions of years to form the continents, the present how we have. And the craters during that time, the craters on the crust were filled with water, that water bodies we call as oceans. So all these things we will discuss in the next topic, that is internal structure of the earth. We will go for the next session. So the next topic of the lesson or earth is the internal structure of the earth. So as we have discussed in the previous video, the earth has 3 layers, that is the crust, mantle and the core. Again the core has divided into 2 parts, outer core and the inner core. So here how did these 3 layers also formed, we have discussed in the previous video, that is the crust has just 1% and the mantle 16% and the core is 83%. To explain about this, we can take the example of egg also. It means the shell of the egg we can consider as crust, and the liquid, the white color part of the egg we can call as mantle, it is a pliable layer, and the core inside the yellow color part we can call as the core. So we can take the best example, egg. And coming to the in detail, the radius of the earth is up to 6,376 kilometers. So crust consists of 30 to 100 kilometers in the radius of the earth. There is 1% just, and it has various kinds of rocks, and it is the thinnest layer of the earth on which we live, and it is our responsibility also to protect the crust, because we are damaging the crust continuously from the decades onwards. for the sake of mines and for the sake of bore wells, etc., etc. So it leads to heavy earthquakes. So it is our responsibility to protect the crust. And coming to the next layer of the earth, that is the mantle. Mantle is a pliable layer, so on which the crust floats. It's a pliable layer, and it consists of 100 to 2900 kilometers in the radius of the earth, and it has mostly silicates, the chemicals. And now coming to the core is about 83% of the crust radius, and it is from the 2900 kilometers to 6376 kilometers, and it consists of iron and nickel, heavy substances went down, we have discussed. So the heavy substances consist in the core, and it is the thickest layer of the earth. And coming to the core has divided into two layers, outer core and the inner core. And the outer core also, it has 2900 to 5100 kilometers, and it is consists of iron and nickel. And coming to the inner core, it is from 5100 to 6376 kilometers, and it is mainly consists of iron and gold. Interestingly, the matter from the mantle will come up to the earth crust in the form of volcanoes and fissures, and the ocean flows to form the new crust. And the crust also will go into the mantle and to form the molten lava. So this is a continuous process. Forming the new crust, and the old crust will go into the mantle to form the molten lava. So with this process we can get to know that still the earth is in active. So we have on the earth many active volcanoes which we will read in the next lesson.